The Rundown with Carrie Saldo podcast is funded by Armbrook Village Senior Living in Westfield, offering assisted living and compass memory support with evidence-based treatment for those with memory loss. More at armbrookvillage.com.
This is The Rundown, your weekly news and review from Western Mass. I'm Carrie Saldo. Good morning. It is Friday, May 30th, 2025. But my brain kind of still thinks it's Thursday because of the Monday holiday. So hopefully the Rundown panel here is going to help me keep all of this sorted this morning. And in studio with me today is Dave Eisenstatter, state editor for Mass Live, East Hampton Mayor Nicole LaChapelle, April May Munford reporter for the Springfield Republican, and NEPM's Adam Frenier. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Coming up, East Hampton makes national news for suing the Trump administration. We'll hear how that came about and what happens next. Plus, a vigil in Springfield marks 5 years since George Floyd's murder. We will discuss why activists there are urging protection of the reforms that have been made since. And a new alliance of Berkshire arts groups weighs in on some less than artsy improvements, infrastructure, transportation, and housing needs. If you have thoughts on this week's news from the 413, email us, therundown@nepm.org. All right, now on to our first story. The headline, Devastating Impact. Trump's attacks on Harvard could cost Massachusetts millions, Healy warns. This is a story in Mass Live by Juliet Schulman Hall, and I'm going to read a bit of her reporting. The Massachusetts economy will take a big hit as the federal government launches escalating attacks against Harvard University. Governor Maura Healey, an alumna, warned on Tuesday evening. Quote, when President Trump attacks Harvard, he's attacking the Massachusetts economy, Healey said during an online discussion joined by thousands of Harvard alumni Tuesday. Harvard is the fourth largest employer in the state, contributing more than $6 billion with a B to the economy, which doesn't include startups at companies that are born out of the institution, Healey said. Dave, give us a sense of some backstory here. I know you have been working with the team. You're editing the team that's been covering this story.
Yeah, well, Juliet has been writing about this almost nonstop for like a month plus right now. Governor Healey met with a number of alumni to talk about the economic impact, in particular in the effect of removing international students from Harvard. About 27%, I believe, of students at Harvard are international foreign students. And the Trump administration is doing its best to revoke Harvard's ability to enroll foreign students.
And this has been going on since April,
yes,
right? This
yes.
back and forth?
Yeah, that's right. And in April, the Trump administration had canceled or withheld billions of dollars, $2.2 billion in federal funds, and just recently instructed all federal agencies to halt contracts with Harvard.
President Trump has accused Harvard and other universities of allowing anti-Semitism amid pro-Palestinian student protests, and he's insisted that Harvard and others stop their DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Among other things he wants done is reformation of student discipline policies and maybe to implement a mask ban. So yesterday was graduation.
Yeah, yesterday was a big day at Harvard. It was the commencement ceremony, and it was also Harvard and the Trump administration were back in court. The judge determined in that case that they put forward a preliminary injunction that said that yes, for now, Harvard can continue to enroll foreign students, but there continue to be consequences. And what Governor Healey was telling this group of alumni is that just the international students at Harvard, they contribute $400 million to the local economy every year.
Yeah. And so, Mayor LaChapelle, I know East Hampton does not have a college or university. However, it is a part of the 5 colleges area where we have Amherst, Hampshire, Mount Holyoke, Smith, and the University of Amherst, Massachusetts, all within 10 miles of each other. Do you see ways in which this situation at Harvard could impact here in colleges and universities here in the 413?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think of East Hampton residents, how many of them are employed by college or university locally, but also, some distance away. Also, we have Williston Northampton School, which has international students. We're seeing the CLI Conservatory now attracting international students. This is like local economy, regional economy, a really big hit. And I think what Trump is doing, making the example of Harvard, is to chill international students, but also local economies to contain, to really reach down to Main Streets and say, I do control your Main Streets and really chill.
It's been interesting to watch the extent to which Harvard has said, no, we're not going to implement these changes. But we've seen Columbia, and I think it was this morning, MIT. There was reporting that MIT is also going to roll back some of its DEI initiatives. There was an opinion piece in the Boston Globe, I believe it was this morning. Corinne Hajar said the following about there's strong support for from some sober-minded conservatives for this move that the president is pushing for. She said, quote, they reason that Trump's maximalist approach is the only way to counter another kind of maximalism, a progressive orthodoxy that has stifled debate and fueled prejudice in elite institutions like college campuses for too long. And that was an end quote. Thoughts on that or any other piece of this story, April or Adam?
I want to pick up on what the mayor was saying. If you think about all of the colleges and universities in the 4 western counties of the state, how many thousands of people work there? How many thousands of people alone work at UMass Amherst? Students rent buildings, or apartments, I should say. They go to grocery stores. Their parents come and visit them. The economic impact is absolutely huge. And, if international students are less likely to come to any of the schools, and don't forget, there's a number of colleges even here in Hampden County, for instance, that could have a massive economic impact on the 413.
April, any additional thoughts?
It just makes me question, where are all these people going to go for the layoffs? If where are these people going to go? When international students come over, they work here too. Where are all these? How are these jobs going to get filled? Like coming off of the pandemic, where we seen this great resignation, and all of these industries are struggling to find quality individuals to work in certain positions and certain places. And how are we going to fill those? And where are these people going to go?
As it stands right now, this move is halted by the courts, right? This piece that the Trump administration has asked for?
That's true. And yet there's still consequences to this. The story that Juliet has this morning is about how not only are international students scrambling to find backup plans because they don't know what's going to happen, there are actually U.S. students, domestic students, who are saying no to going to Harvard because they don't want to go to a school where there aren't international students. So the courts are having their say, but there are real-life consequences that are happening outside of that as well.
Well, this story will continue, and we'll keep talking about it here on The Rundown. East Hampton made national news late last week. The headline on a story from the Associated Press's Colin Binkley, Judge blocks Trump's orders to dismantle the education department and fire employees. Quoting, a federal judge last Thursday blocked Donald Trump's executive order to dismantle the education department and ordered the agency to reinstate employees who were fired in mass layoffs. The administration said it would challenge the ruling. The ruling came in 2 consolidated lawsuits that said Trump's plans amounted to an illegal closure of the education department. Mayor LaChapelle, you are familiar with this topic because East Hampton was joined Somerville and the American Federation of Teachers and other education groups to sue the administration. Why did East Hampton want to be involved in this?
It was a great way for our school committee to put forward the values that they've always held and the faith of not just our local school department, but also student aid. Talking about local economy, talking about students who hold jobs, but also need the Department of Education and the support, technical support, but also administration of federal loans that are certainly focused on colleges, but you're also talking about workforce development. East Hampton starts to slow down pretty darn fast when higher ed is being attacked. The Department of Education provides so much technical support, but also protection for students that have IEPs, students who need accommodations. So, hats off to the school committee. I'm a member, and really that's the credit of this initiative. They were so well researched. We went into executive session, and it was unanimous that we were joining. We had a very short turnaround. We are now in limbo. Trump administration is challenging it, and we're on a very short timeline to have the not-for-profit who's representing us respond to that. And it was referred to as hockey pucks, and right now the puck is in the Trump administration's part of the ice rink. Maybe
Yeah,
the ice
yeah.
rink?
If
Sure,
we're going to
ice
carry
rink.
that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking
On their side of the field, the court,
yeah,
the non-sports person jumps in. Adam Frenier, you could have helped finish this analogy, but
I'm trying to figure out who's in the penalty box.
Nice. I have a short list, but that's not for this program. But how chilling? I mean, again, the word chilling keeps coming out of my mouth of everything that this, country has stood for, stands for, struggles with, and to see a city of 16,000 with Somerville bizarre that we're standing up and have to.
And for people who weren't familiar with the specificity, the suits argued that the layoffs left the Department of Education unable to carry out responsibilities required by Congress, including duties to support special education, distribute financial aid, and enforce civil rights laws. You touched on a few of those, Mayor. April, I was thinking of you as I was reading this story because you reported at the beginning of this month that the Holyoke School Committee's, one of the Holyoke School Committee's members, Devin Sheehan, is going to lead the National School Boards Association next year. Has he said anything about these national challenges and the ways that they're impacting local schools?
So he did talk about these national challenges. He told us to pay attention, right? And he says that, while Trump can file an executive order, it does need an act of Congress to actually happen. He says that, having someone close to Washington, paying attention to what is being, what orders are being signed, but also what orders are being reversed really makes a difference. So we know what's going on. One interesting thing that he said was that, he's used to the fight, right? And we see this kind of resilience happening all the time. Like, if you're always fighting for social justice, you're always fighting for students that are marginalized, this fight is not new to you. And so having that, that, I guess, kind of passion, having that pushback is what he's going to use to keep legislators on their toes and bringing money into the Western masses.
Devin's been fighting that fight for the Holyoke Public School District for a decade. So he certainly is experienced in fighting the fight around, excessive control on the state and federal government. No better person to lead us.
I agree.
Dave, Adam, thoughts?
And Carrie, this all comes down to this uncertainty, whether it's with schools or whether it's with budgets, funding, all of this. And, one day things are getting cut, the next day a court's reversing it. And, I'm sure the mayor can speak to this. It's budget season. How do you budget when you don't know how much the state's going to have to give to you? How do you, adjust? Are we going to get federal education funds or not? I mean, it must be just such a headache for local officials.
How are you handling that challenge right now, Mayor?
So my budget, I submitted it to City Council a week or so ago, and we kept true to the financial policies. We tightened up some of what we would put aside in reserves or whatnot. But my approach was everything is uncertain, and we need to forge ahead in a pragmatic way. So we don't lose ground of what we're doing for our residents. But it is, we're dancing on ice, and I do not envy the legislature right now of figuring out what to use of revenue and how to go forward with cuts that are clearly coming.
As we were talking about this issue and then thinking back to the Harvard issue, I sort of drew the line between the fact that, the Department of Education, research grants and federal financial aid for colleges and universities are a huge part of what the DOE does and would need to stop doing if the DOE were shuttered. So when I think about it in that context, it's not surprising that we see the Trump administration saying that these research grants are cut, this is eliminated, because they're taking steps to move forward with that tenet that they want to enforce.
It affects the people's jobs too. So this administration has definitely taken a fire first, get sued for it later kind of policy. Not only with the education department, where a bunch of people get laid off and then they get their jobs back, but with the Department of Governmental Efficiency, DOGE, cutting many governmental programs. We had a story about a fired worker who got their job back, but now is not sure that they want to stay around there because they want a stable job. So that's another consequence that happens that the court can't really remedy.
April, just briefly before we head to break here.
Yeah, I think that this has a real impact on students in particular, micro to macro. We're going to talk about, like, the support that the U.S. Department of Education gives to students like Skylar Lopez in Southwick. Like, this is civil rights, and students need to be supported in certain ways, right? And if there's no Department of Education, then they don't have that support.
Well, you are listening to The Rundown here on 88.5 NEPM. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, more from our panel. If you have thoughts, email The Rundown at nepm.org. Stay here. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Rundown here on 88.5 NEPM. I'm Carrie Saldo, joined by Dave Eisenstatter, East Hampton Mayor Nicole LaChapelle, April May Munford, and Adam Frenier, all from various news outlets in our region. Our next topic this morning is a somber one. The headline, Vigil Remembers George Floyd and Speakers Urge Protection of Eroding Reforms. This was written by Jeanette DeForge in the Springfield Republican newspaper. Quoting here, 5 years ago, people took to the streets after a video of the killing of George Floyd at the hands of the Minneapolis police went viral. Corporations, the justice system, and others responded by instituting initiatives to improve racial equity. But attendees at a vigil on Sunday said that improvement is losing much of the momentum it gained as President Donald Trump removes diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in government and education and encourages businesses to do the same. April May Munford, 5 years after George Floyd's murder, what's on your mind?
It's still happening. It's still happening. When will the fight end? When will we stop seeing murders? When? One thing that strikes me in this article is Black buying power, right? And they had this vigil at Target, which is rolling back their diversity, equity, and inclusion.
From a corporate
initiatives.
Perspective, that's a choice that the corporation Target has made.
Correct.
The reporting that Jeanette published went on to say that on the Sunday anniversary of Floyd's death, a crowd that included many black churchgoers gathered to remember Floyd and push for new justice reforms while protecting the gains already made. The event, as April mentioned, was held outside of a proposed Target, which was announced in January, that it was walking back those DEI efforts. Mayor LaChapelle, I know that you campaigned for President Biden and this election cycle, but still you have to work with the Trump administration and sort of as in your leadership position, what do you make of how President Trump is approaching this issue this term?
Well, it's disgusting. And it goes really against his own agenda for running, which is local economy, which is building up workforce, which is bringing manufacturing back to, the country. It's well-proven DEI, and before it had those, those initials attached to it, it has been and is really the future of our country. I mean, that's just a fact and has been for decades and decades. And when we really acknowledge and step out of the old gook and racism and fascism and anti-Semitism that, the majority of our country has lived with for centuries, we flourish as a country. So, the hypocrisy is not surprising, but this is devastating. And holding back a day these policies puts us back, a decade, generation, name it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the striking things from that article for me was Bishop Talbert Swan saying that moment we had in 2020, we need that again. But underlying that comment is that the thing that sparked that moment was a black man getting killed by a police officer by kneeling on his neck for 9.5 minutes. And it's unfortunate, we can't be asking for that to be happening again. Things that came out of that moment, Juneteenth became a federal holiday, a state holiday in Massachusetts. Police reform laws were enacted in different states. Springfield has got that big Black Lives Matter mural right in front of City Hall, right in front of the Mass Live building. And then these DEI programs, which have become this, real political hot potato. Just as we were talking about Harvard before, standing up to the Trump administration, one of the areas that they capitulated in some way is that they changed the name of their DEI office.
April.
So we see all of these things rolling back now, and what I think that the message here is that we need to stick together like we did then to move this momentum forward. We need to champion when we're sticking together. We need to, because all of those things were done with everyone's hand. I remember being at the protest in front of the Springfield Police Department, and we were getting very close. And my daughter's like, I don't want to protest. I'm scared. Martin Luther King was killed, Mom. I know that. And there were people who said, bring your white bodies to the front to help protect us, for fighting for what we believed in. I think being careful that we're not repeating the harmful stereotypes. And we have to, understanding that there is $2 trillion of Black buying power, and people are looking for companies that reflect them, that reflect their ideas and support them in several different ways. And I think that taking that away from the economy, the local economies, is not going to be good.
I was struck by something that Michelle Martin wrote, an analysis for NPR, quoting here. After Floyd's death, there were lots of big gestures. Companies made donations. Government made commitments. Some police departments reformed policies. Some states passed new laws. Lawsuits were filed. Settlements reached. But could this still happen again? It's a question that doesn't belong to just one city or town. It belongs in one way or another to all of us.
We also see consent decrees at police stations or police departments being rolled back as well. So I just want to make sure that we know that diversity in these departments are going to,
Carrie, one thing I wanted to quickly point out, there was a lot of, increased activism in 2020, and I'm curious if that's going to continue. I've heard the term chilling used in other references to describe what the Trump administration may be trying to do. I'm curious if the activism will still continue to try to fight against these things, or if there's going to be a chilling effect against people who have been fighting for 5 and 6 years and decide that, I just can't anymore, or I'm scared to.
Final thought from you, April. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the cross-collaboration is where we're going to see, our power. And I think about allies that stood before for the fight for equality, including the White Panthers, the Rainbow Coalition, and the Young Lords.
All right. I'm going to move us on to our next topic. The headline, amid headwinds facing arts and culture, Berkshire arts groups unite in new alliance. This was reporting by Matt Martinez out of the Berkshire Eagle. Quoting here, 10 arts organizations in the Berkshires announced a partnership Tuesday to advance support for infrastructure, transportation, and housing needs in the county. The alliance's agenda thus far prioritizes development of housing for full-time and seasonal workers, greater intra-county and statewide transportation options, and collective infrastructure improvements. Other efforts include research into climate resiliency, enhancing safety measures on cultural campuses, and joint marketing efforts to attract visitors. Adam, the Berkshires was once your news beat. What do you think when you read this story?
I was surprised it wasn't already going on, to be honest. It's such a great idea. The cultural economy of the Berkshires really does drive that region in many ways that you mentioned, Carrie, and it just makes so much sense to band together. It's easier to work with a government entity, state or federal, when you're a group of one as opposed to a group of 10 or 12. And, that economy is so precious and potentially fragile depending on which way the greater economy goes. I think it's a wonderful idea for all those entities to work together to push to get things to make their sector even stronger.
The Eagle also noted that the alliance's efforts are an extension of their overall role in the local economy, a tourism industry that generates around $1.5 billion of economic impact annually in Berkshire County. But still, infrastructure, transportation, housing needs, these are challenges that are not unique to the Berkshires. We talk about them on this show all the time across the Western Massachusetts area and obviously the state. Mayor, were you surprised to see arts organizations kind of coming into the fray to talk about infrastructure and transportation and housing?
No, not at all. East Hampton did a revisioning arts I guess, seminar around almost like a comprehensive plan. And the number one reason or the number one block to a thriving cultural economy and creation was housing. And that was really surprising to us back then, and now it's come into full swing. But I also just want to tie back this initiative to what we were talking about before. Arts and culture, arts in particular across all medias, they tell our whole story. And, the local economy being chilled, that's what goes down first.
Dave, what are you thinking about when you read this story?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting reversal, right? I mean, a lot of times you're seeing arts organizations fighting for funding amid other priorities like, streets, roads, infrastructure. And here's a group of, 10 major arts organizations that are coming together to find support for those other priorities too. I was struck just like you. It seems like Berkshire County is a natural place for this idea. And housing is crazy in Western Mass and Eastern Mass, and it's only gotten crazier since the pandemic with people moving here from New York City and other places.
It was interesting, too, to think back. I remember when Berkshire Creative was launched back in 2007, which was this effort that saw local cultural organizations work to quantify what we started calling the arts economy, the creative economy, and they also worked together to grow the creative economy. That ended up catching the attention of the governor. It helped to spawn this sort of statewide look at the arts economy and this creation of the creative economy industry. I remember someone from the Berkshires, Helena Fruscio, heading out to Eastern Massachusetts as of this outgrowth of the Berkshire creative movement. So I'm curious to see if this attempt with this alliance sparks something similar, where we'll see action around the issue because the arts organization has stepped in.
I think it's a great model. I think, and it, I'm not going to apologize for my earlier emotion, but seeing folks band together on a regional basis, and standing together is really important. You can work as hard as you want to work as a city councilor, as a select board, as a mayor, and just see resiliency, come up again and again. But the reality is, I've worked for 7 years, and I've got residents coming up to me saying, if I am taken into custody, will someone be able to find me? And I look at no, I can't make that promise. Crushing.
All right. Well, I'm going to pivot us now to our scoop, praise, and prediction portion of the show, where we make a prediction about the news, dish on a story that we're working on, or heap some praise on a newsworthy nugget. Adam Frenier, what's happening?
I am going to heap praise upon all of the high school graduates who either have walked across the stage or are going to in the next week or two. First of all, congratulations. It's not always easy, I know, but as you begin your next journey, don't be afraid to do a little something out of your comfort zone that's still safe for yourself.
And you didn't quote Dr. Seuss. So
the places you'll go?
Exactly. Dave Eisensetter, what's up for you? Scoop, praise, prediction?
Yeah, well, I guess I want to I've got a little praise and maybe another sort of congratulations like Adam. Sam Hutzik, who was here at NEPM. It's a little NEPM news. Sam Hutzik, who was here for a long time, graduated law school, is now embarking on a new exciting legal career, and Elizabeth Roman stepping up to lead the newsroom here. Very exciting. Both those folks are friends, colleagues, and congratulations to them.
Mayor LaChapelle, what's on your mind?
I'm going to go right back to arts and culture, economy, cultural chaos, 12 to 5 on June 14th. It's our street festival in East Hampton in our Cottage Street Cultural District. You never know what's going to happen on the streets, but please come and join us.
Pearl May Munford, about 15 seconds.
Today at 11 o'clock, 144 High Street, check out Paper City Clothing. They have a new exhibit. They have a new fashion or store. So check them out. Their ribbon cutting is today.
All right. Well, you've been listening to The Rundown here on 88.5 NEPM. My thanks to Dave Eisensetter, Pearl May Munford, Adam Frenier, and Nicole LaChapelle. Have a great day, everybody.